Welcome to our panel discussion. We're talking about anti-Israel drives on campus. Now we're taking an educational inside look. We're asking questions like, who's behind it? What are some of the responses that we're getting to it? For example, from the administration. Our guests, Bill Smythe, Marion Walters, and Bob Mayton. Now, Bill, I'm going to start with you. What's often presented, these anti-Israel drives, it's presented as a free speech issue on campus. You've got the Israel apartheid being going on, the boycotts and divestments, and it's being presented as we have every right to express how we feel about how the Palestinian people are being treated. This is free speech. But when one stands back and looks at the situation, who, first of all, is really behind this? Because it's being presented as a social justice issue. But let's dig deeper. Who's behind this?
Well, I think perhaps it begins with the Muslim groups on campus who have an agenda. Their agenda is, in general, the removal of the State of Israel.
Okay, I'm going to back you up here.
Yeah.
Removal of the State of Israel, because people here in our society, a Muslim group, destroying the State of Israel. How did you get from there to there? But so I want people to understand exactly where you're coming from. Now, you're referring to the Muslim Student Associations, the Palestinian Solidarity Networks, and just
Students
give a very brief
background.
They are linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. That's established.
Yes.
They gave rise to the Islamic Society of North America, not the other way around, and they are aggressive groups on campus, and you're indicating the agenda now.
That's right. I mean, they for example, the Muslim Students Association got funding from Saudi Arabia initially, and probably still does. They're at all major universities in the USA and Canada. They certainly get financial support from outside of the university. They are, and the Students for Justice in Palestine have, in the last few years, been involved in all sorts of illegal activities in universities, including, in particular, the denial of free speech to those who want to come on campus and give another point of view.
And these events, as we do create, at that time particularly, a lot of anti-Jew behavior, a lot of discrimination. And the students should not be the one, the Jewish students should not be the ones who have to stand up to this. It's up to the administrations to take a stand, at least a moral stand. I mean, they do often say it's a matter of free speech, but it's only for the Jews. It's only for the Jewish group. All the other minority groups, sensitivity trumps free speech. You would not see a slur put on a black student's dorm room door, and then they say, oh, well, that's free speech. It would never happen.
I want to get back to you on some of what you've seen and how this hate might be manifested, but there's one thing that we need to say as well. There are many Muslim students that go to school, they're on the campuses trying to get their degree, and they're not involved at all in any agenda. So we need to make that clear. We're not referring to all Muslim students by any stretch, but we are talking about a specific drive that we see on the campuses where it is proven that there are links to the Muslim Brotherhood. This is the kind of issue that we're dealing with here. Now, Bob, your point of view and your view on this.
My point of view is that the universities provide the leadership in our society. And when these things happen in the universities, it filters out and permeates the rest of the society. And there is a growth of anti-Semitism, what some people call Jew hatred, in society right now. And the universities are teaching paradigms and theories which are very problematic. For example, postmodernism, which divides the world into oppressors and the oppressed, and blames Western civilization for most of the ills of the world, and says that the rest of the world is the victim of this and are oppressed by this. And Israel being in the center of the Middle East as a representative or as a proxy for Western civilization, I think a lot of people have interpreted that because of the postmodern paradigm, as the problem, that Israel is the problem in the Middle East, because Israel is a representative of the oppressive Western civilization represented in the Middle East. And I think that's really totally wrong. I think that Western society, because of what's been happening in the universities, that our Western civilization is losing its courage, losing its identity, and is being overwhelmed by these identities, which are very strong, but which are really, in essence, very oppressive. I think the universities need to reconsider the approach that they're taking to these educational issues.
What you're talking here is very important because it also relates to liberation theology. Now, there's an important document, I'm going to say very briefly, called the Kairos document, and this applied to South Africa under apartheid. And that notion of oppressed oppressor, that was a real example of oppressed and oppressor. And under that Kairos document, of course, the oppressed were the black South Africans, and the oppressors was the white establishment under apartheid. But fast forward that, there came a document called Kairos Palestine, where there was also considered the oppressed and the oppressor. Unfortunately, this was a wrong document where Israel was now dubbed the oppressor and the Palestinians the oppressed. And they made a comparison to that South African model, calling Israel the apartheid state under Kairos Palestine. So this is something that is very important, what you're saying about this. And it's operational in the churches, Bob.
It is.
Very much, because you've got someone that's oppressed, you've got an oppressor, and Christians are caring. So they buy into this without questioning.
And you've raised, Christine, another issue, which is you mentioned the word how you feel is so important. This is another aspect of postmodernism. Rational argument is not really considered to be very important. It's how you feel about things, and a lot of these groups, they don't want to engage in debate. They don't want to win an argument. What they want to do is end the debate. And so you see a lot of demonstrations where they prevent people from going into meetings, where speakers that they disagree with are speaking, or they'll take over the meeting with chanting and prevent people from hearing. This is oppositional to free speech, and is in itself oppressive. And this starts in the universities. And I think it's really problematic. I think, as you've said, the administrations need to take care of this.
Yes, we're running out of time, so I'd like the two of you, if you will, to give us some examples very quickly on what the Jewish students are facing on the campus.
Well, I mean, there's a lot in the press. At McMaster is the only place that I've seen it, and one of the things is they do dance around with the slogan, Palestine will be should be free from the river to the sea. But there are slogans painted on their doors. They're, some cases have actually been pushed or assaulted, spit upon from a balcony in the student center. I mean, they're not usually life-threatening events.
Checkpoints set up, but these things make the news?
Yes, I have heard of that, certainly heard of that. But there was a recent event at the University of California. The Board of Regents there has come out with a statement. It took a long time to get there, but it recognizes that there's anti-Semitism on the campus, that it's discrimination just like racism or sexism, and furthermore, and the most important thing, it formally acknowledges that there's blatant anti-Semitism within anti-Zionism, and that anti-Zionism incites Jew hate.
Now, we're pretty much out of time here, so I'm going to put this last question to you, and it's a big question, so I'm asking you if you can answer it as short as possible. This issue about, it's free speech. There's something called the new anti-Semitism that says, it criticizes the state of Israel, and the defense is, well, we can criticize the state of Israel, but it goes beyond that, and I'd like you to finish up by discussing this issue about new anti-Semitism quickly and why these drives are a problem.
Well, I mean, I think Bob put it very well. It's perfectly all right if you suppress the free speech of people that you choose to look at as being victims. But the university seems to, and the university seems to go along with that. Certainly at McMaster University, we have tried to interest the administration in adopting a policy that would deal with anti-Semitism on campus in conjunction with the report that came out several years ago on this subject from the Canadian Parliament, and there was no interest at all. We also tried to interest the Council of Ontario Universities in taking a stand on this, and we got a one-sentence response to our detailed letter to them. So it's a real difficulty, but I think Bob is correct that the university is at the heart of it. If the university will will not at least take a stand on these matters, then the situation will just go on and will get worse.
It comes down to Israel's right to exist. It's a defensive issue, and this is the key issue that is not being adhered to, not being listened to, and there's absolutely no debate that you could say is solid on the other side to explain why is it in the Hamas charter, why is it in the Palestinian Authority charter, in the Fatah charters, why is it there to obliterate Israel, but these are not issues that are addressed on this occupation, why is that not addressed on why Israel has to have military there?
When you have one side wanting to push the other side into the sea, how can you possibly have peace? I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Please share this video, and on YouTube, click the button below to become a subscriber. In consideration of Canada's 150th birthday, please consider 150 ways to bless Israel through your Christian embassy, the ICEJ Canada. Consider becoming a $150 monthly donor. Plant 150 trees, 150 prayers for Israel. The opportunities are endless. Please contact us.